Hello there, my name is Jacob Gam, if you haven't seen any of my previous videos. I previously commented on a video by the GoldenWeather, who is a creationist who believes that the world is between 6,000 and 10,000 years old, or something to that effect, and believes in the literal translation of the Bible. This includes the creation story and Noah's Ark, which has been the major point of conversation between the two of us. Not to go into all the previous things that have gone in, we have been having a written conversation for quite a while and eventually decided I should really just make a video of it. It's probably going to be two parts because the reason I decided to make a video of it is because I've started writing down my responses to him and it added up to about at least 2,000 words. So not only to make it a slightly more interesting debate and allowing other people to join in, I decided to start making videos responding to his claims. I can't unfortunately go back because I think that would take too long to go back over the previous comments and we'd just be covering old ground again. So I shall instead go on to what his current point is. So we've been discussing the Noah's Ark story and there's several different points that we've been discussing. Including things to do with the distribution of marsupials, the problems with species starting from a single point and spreading out. If it had been Noah's Ark, then we'd see a distribution from there, and numerous other problems. But I shall go into our current point of conversation, just give a quick point of his, quote for him, and then my response to him. So it's mainly directed at him, and I'm just allowing other people to start joining in, and we can make a more visual debate, which is slightly more interesting than simply writing backwards and forth every so often. Okay, so his first point is he says, what is this certainty you're talking about? Now, what I would say is that science does not, and science and myself, does not propose certainty. Evolution is a theory, and people always come back to this, but the reason it is a theory is because we cannot 100% ever prove any particular thing. A theory is a body of knowledge that demonstrates the most logical explanation for a particular phenomenon. We make this theory based on the observation of real-world events by producing models that have predictive capabilities, studying huge amounts of available data, and comparing these things and making sure every single one of them integrates perfectly. We integrate them all. It doesn't have to, there might be little tiny specks of problems and we're working on those, but so long as we're still working towards one final goal and we're seeking the most accurate possible explanation that we have based on the information we currently have, then that is logically the best way to work towards the final theory. It also has to match up with the other scientific disciplines. For example, it has to match up with, well, any particular theory has to match up with geology and physics and mathematics and all the other different things. It just can't work on it completely on its own and ignore everything else, because then you bring up the question of, is everything else wrong, particularly if you prove this other theory is correct. And that's what scientists do. They work out which one is the best thing. So when you say, what is this certainty I'm talking about? I'm not talking about certainty, I'm talking about the most logical and supported explanation for what we currently have. So, for example, the theory of gravity and the germ theory. They are theories, but that doesn't mean that we have 100% certainty that they are true. However, based on the information we have, they are the most logical and successful model for what exists. Theory is the highest point that you can achieve with science. Fact isn't the highest point. Theory is the body of knowledge which you are working towards as a scientist. It's just the most logical explanation for our world based on the information we have, and if we get new information, then we will change the theory. That's the important thing. We're not stuck in the theory just because we want it to. We will change it if new information becomes available. Okay, second one. This one requires some explaining because of the context. That to me is more central than 2 to 4 animals of each kind coming off the ark. So he points out that I say that there is a particular point in which the fish have evolved into amphibians, and that would indicate a particular. He's saying that would indicate a particular point from which land-based life began, and I said that in Noah's Ark if it came down at a particular point, you would notice genetic variation stemming out from this particular point. This would be centralized from a particular point some 3,000, 4,000, whatever years ago that he believes the Noah's Ark story came from. What you're neglecting to mention, GoldenWeather, is the fact that evolutionary theory puts it at 400 million years ago that amphibians evolved, approximately. This is quite a lot longer time period than what you're suggesting. So yours is, from this single point, I'm saying over the period of time of those many years, that amount of time, those thousands of years, there is not enough time for it all to have become evenly mixed and distributed in the way that your theory would propose it would have to have done. Instead, if we look at it, it would instead say, based on the arc there being the arc theory, we shall call it, we shan't even call it theory because, as I said, that's slightly wrong. Based on the arc hypothesis, we shall say that everything will have had to have stemmed out from that singular point and moved out from there. There is no reason. Everything would come out from this point, and we would see in genealogy and fossilization, we would see that it spreads out from this point, and it would match the land barriers that currently exist, or can be proved to existed at the time. If you take that away, it just doesn't hold up to any analysis whatsoever. However, you saying that mine doesn't work because it's central, well, I've got a hell of a lot longer time period in which for mine to work. And 400 million years is easily enough time for these animals to have evolved, to have spread across the world, continents to move, animals to be trapped on particular continents, and moved around again. You're also saying that it wouldn't, because he mentions that animals on Australia, he says that all the kangaroos would have got off the ark and they would have made their way to Australia, and there was a land bridge at the time. And saying that it would not have been possible to travel to all the way to Australia. Firstly, because there would be no plant life, because it would have all been drowned and destroyed and covered in salt and things, and it wouldn't have had enough time to have developed afterwards. I already mentioned that they would have needed to store lots of seeds. Because I pointed out that it would have killed all the plants, and then GoldenWeather mentioned, well, you would have kept seeds on the ark. Well, this increases the space needed for the ark, because there's approximately, I can't even say the number, dyslexia has left me unable to pronounce it, but 1292035 species of plant on the world currently existing. You would need to supply seeds for all of those, and then have some way of spreading them across the planet, because unlike your animals, they can't just walk there. And your animals can't walk there anyway, because there's ocean in between them. Not to mention the fact that most of the ocean creatures would be dead, which is another problem you haven't actually pointed out yet. However, one of the other problems is simply the evidence that indicates marsupials at one point did cover most of the Earth, and that placental mammals began to evolve and began to outcompete them, the marsupials. However, on Gondwana, which was a continent consisting of, I believe, Antarctica, Australia, and South America, I believe. I need to double check that one. That had placental mammals on it, and when Australia split off, it was had not yet been taken over by mammals, the placental mammals. So everyone else, pretty much, marsupials were outcompeted by marsupials were outcompeted by placental mammals, but the Australian marsupials didn't have that competition, so that's why they have survived. Saying that the marsupials had pretty much in their entirety gone from the ark and went, right then, that island is ours, and travelled all the way across, ignoring all the other factors which mean they would have starved to death, and while there aren't any fossils randomly littered around of that particular species of existing existing kangaroo and marsupial having left in a trail going directly from the point of Noah's Ark across, not anywhere. Yeah, it doesn't hold up to any science. Okay, that's the point number one. I'm running out of time on this particular one, but as I said, there's a lot. I'm going to put the text version, and I will make video number 2. See you in a moment.